if nobody's got anything else that they want to look at, over in the 18th chapter of John, we're going to look at some things. John. And Jesus is before Pilate. And just before the crucifixion. And in the 36th verse, he says this, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence. And Pilate therefore said unto him, art thou a king then? And Jesus answered, thou sayest that I am a king. To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice. Folks, that's kind of a bold statement, isn't it? And hey, that doesn't leave much wiggle room. If you desire the truth, you will hear what Jesus has to say. Oh, did I run off and leave somebody? And Pilate said unto him, what is truth? And you know, after 2,000 years, that question's still being asked. What is truth? But you know, and Pilate at that moment, the facts of the matter looked like Pilate had more on what was truth than Jesus. Now here Jesus is captive. Pilate has the power to crucify him, and Jesus is saying he's the truth. Pilate wants to know what is truth. The facts of the moment would look like Pilate had more going for him than Jesus had going for him. But Pilate was operating on the circumstance of the facts at the time. The truth doesn't change, folks.
That's right.
So Pilate, you know, he was pretty well settled in his position and where he was at, and I'm pretty sure he looked at Jesus like, "Hey, yeah, you're truth, all right. Here you are, a prisoner, and I'm fixing to crucify you." But tonight, folks, Pilate's position is gone. Pilate is dead. Right. Jesus' position is still the same, and Jesus is alive. So truth, folks, changes the facts. But the devil works on the facts of the circumstance, and he works on that for you and me too. Folks, he will try to show us the circumstance and say, "Well, the truth isn't working for you." Yes, it is. It may not be happening at the moment like you want it to happen, but the promises of God is truth, and they are eternal promises, and we can stand on them. I say, Pilate at that moment, the facts made it look like, hey, he had more going for him than Jesus had going for him. Now, John 8:32 says this. Let's go over and read that. Jesus, I mean, you know, and there's folks today that say, well, Jesus didn't claim to be the Son of God. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Over and over and over, he claimed to be the Son of God and proved it. And the ultimate proof of that, folks, is an empty grave that's still empty. But John 8:32 says this. Everybody got that? I'll try not to run off and leave you here. Jesus said, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And they answered him, we be Abraham's seed, and we were never under bondage to any man. How sayest thou, you shall be made free? And Jesus answered them, verily I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abideth not in the house forever, but the Son abides forever. Therefore, if the Son shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. Free from what free is he talking about? Free from sin and the consequences, folks, and the judgment of sin. This thing here's blowing cold air. That ain't part of the Bible study. That's just part of the facts of the time. It's done knocked off the heat because it's cold. Yeah, just cut it off. But see, these folks were their confidence was in them being the seed of Abraham. Yes. Folks, I don't care where your confidence is settled. If it's not settled in Jesus, you've done missed it. And there's a lot of folks today whose confidence is in some church building, some membership. And we talked about before the Bible study started. The church doesn't save you, folks. Jesus does. And he can save you anywhere. He can save anybody, anywhere, anytime that you come to him. That was his promise, wasn't it? He that cometh to me, I will in no wise cast out. But we got so many, like the Jews, we get tied up on a building. You know. The building never has been the church, folks. It's the people that's the church. But the only salvation anywhere, and this is not politically or religiously correct, and it sure gets folks stirred up on the day that we're living in, but it's still the truth. It does not change. There is but one salvation, and that's in Jesus. Let me tell you, folks, when God set the penalty of sin as death, the Bible said, if one died for all, then all were dead. We were all under the death penalty, folks. And I don't care what grade of teacher it was, you know, Muhammad, Buddha, any of it comes along. I don't care what kind of message he had. The penalty of sin was still death, and they couldn't deliver anybody from sin. Jesus was the only one, because his daddy didn't pass any sin to him. He was not of the seed of Abraham on his father's side. I mean, the seed of Adam. He was God's son. He was the Son of Man through Mary. But the Bible tells us that the iniquity is passed from the father to the children, not from the mother to the children. And so he could pay that penalty because he was an innocent man. He could pay the penalty for a guilty man, because he had no sin of his own. And if Jesus had sin, he never would have resurrected. And we talked a little bit last week about resurrection. There was not going to be a resurrection, folks, of the righteous without the sacrifice of Christ, because in him was life. And so man had been dead since Adam's sin. He even said, I came to give them life, they might have life and have it more abundantly. He didn't come to give us what we already had. He come to give us what we hadn't had since Adam killed us all. The penalty was on all of us. Little babies born and they're innocent, they've never sinned, but that seed is in them, and their bodies will start getting older, and they'll start dying from the time they get here, because the sin's working in them. The penalty was set to start with, but Jesus came along, and because he had no sin, he could pay the penalty for ours. And I'm going to tell you something else too, folks. The penalty of sin is not hell. We hear that preached. The Bible doesn't say the penalty for sin is hell. It said the penalty of sin is death. And you get over in the Revelation, and you'll see where that death and hell was cast into the lake of fire. But the judgment, there is a hell, folks. There's a burning hell. That is the judgment. But actually, the penalty for sin is righteous, unrighteous, saint or sinner. We're all going to die if Jesus doesn't come back. I mean, death is 100%, folks. It's been batting 100% since Adam. We will all die. But, if the penalty was hell, then the flames would all go to hell, wouldn't we? If that was the penalty, but that's not the penalty. The penalty is death, and Jesus took that. But because folks think the penalty is hell, we get folks preaching that Jesus went down into hell and beat the devil. I heard a preacher say one time he went down in the flames and beat the devil in his own house. Folks, hell ain't the devil's house. He's not in the flames. He's walking to and fro in the earth, seeking whom he may devour. But Jesus, now the hell that you talk that we see, that where it says, "I will not suffer the Holy One to see corruption, neither will I leave my soul in hell." It's the grave, folks. It's the grave. There is a place of flames, but it's not. Every time you see hell, it's not it. Every time, it's exclusively. Yeah, the Old Testament, the Jewish people understood there was going to be a judgment, and they understood there was going to be a place of flames, but they didn't teach that you died and went there. They taught there was a judgment. The timing's out. And again, when we read in Revelation, again the revelation that John got was that there would be a judgment, and then they would be, and all of those that was not found written in the book of life would be cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. So, but the truth The truth is, how many knows that the truth is, regardless of what we believe, the truth is what Jesus said and what Jesus believed? See, what we believe doesn't matter one way or the other to God as far as whether we're righteous or not. Do we believe what Jesus said? That's where faith is born. It's when we begin. It's His righteousness. We were made righteous. Salvation itself is a gift. Now He expects us to walk in that gift once we are born again. Once we have accepted it, He expects us to walk in it. But all the good works that we could do could not bring us back to life, because life is not in good works. Life is in Him. And so He said you would know the truth. That's all He ever wanted. But well, look, there's just two ways. There's a way of life and a way of death. And God is a God of life. Now we can choose. We can choose to go the way of death. I mean, we have the choice. He gave us that choice. But He didn't even the place of fire was not intended for man. It was intended for the devil and his angels. Now, man that has rejected God goes there on their own. You know, the judgment has already been set. Will there be people thrown into the lake of fire? Yeah, sure will. But they go as an intruder. They go as an intruder. And because God made man in His image after His likeness, and that's the way that He intended for us to live, walking in His image and His likeness. See, the devil comes along, and this is what he does. He tries to make man into His image and His likeness, so that we'll wind up in the same destination that is set for him. Hey, he knows, folks, that in the end time he loses, but he also knows that he can carry as many as will follow him with him. He is still very angry at the image and likeness of God, because we are in His place as far as He is concerned, because He was here before Adam and Eve. But just like the Jews here, they said, hey, we're not in bondage because we're Abraham's seed. And too many today, folks, has settled on a version of truth instead of on Jesus is not a version. Jesus is the truth. But now we could, you can nitpick little things out of there and go about and doing mostly what you want to do, and feel good about, hey, I believe this. The devil believes Jesus is who He said He was. I mean, he does. The Bible said that you believe there's one God, you do well. The devil also believes and trembles. So just to believe that Jesus was and make no commitment to that doesn't get us anywhere, folks. Doesn't get us anywhere. And whoever, and you've heard us say this a lot of times, but whoever or whatever that we put first in our life becomes our God. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of folks out there tonight, trick-or-treating grown folks. Trick-or-treat. They spent more on grown costumes than they did on children's costumes. One night a year, we get out there and do the devil's thing. But it's a version of truth. Oh, God knows my heart. He sure does. He knows your heart, and He's wondering why you're out there acting like the devil. Never heard of that one, but hey. I saw some of y'all may have saw it today on Facebook. Some fella said, I want y'all to stop naming your kids Bible names and not teaching them about the Bible story. He said, today I got robbed by Moses. You go name him a Bible name, teach him a Bible story. I got robbed by Moses. Yeah, they was under covenant. But that's what he's saying, though, see. They was captured by folks, but they still was under covenant. But they believed, because they were Abraham's children, that they had an automatic ticket to heaven. And there's folks now believe if you're born Jewish, that you got a ticket to heaven. No man comes to the Father but by Jesus. See, Abraham was the man of faith. Isaac was the child of faith, just like Jesus was. But Abraham's seed is those of faith. The Bible says those that has the faith of Abraham are counted as the seed. See, it's not the natural seed of Abraham, but those that are of faith. The only way we get to God is believing faith, believing what He said and moving in that. But He said, I've come and taken. Well, I mean, again, their salvation was based on their family lineage. And hey, Abraham, even though he was a man of faith, had sinned, and Abraham died. And if it hadn't been for Jesus, Abraham couldn't have made it either.
That's right.
Sometimes we look at that, and we don't think about that. But I believe it's in Hebrews 11, the last verse. It talks about them under the old covenant. He said, "Them without us could not be made perfect." In other words, they started, but Jesus came to give life. Without Jesus, they could not have had life because, hey, they paid the penalty for their own sin, and they could not be resurrected into life because it's impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sin. The writer of Acts said David has not ascended into heaven. He is both dead and buried. You know why? Because Christ hadn't paid for David's sin. Once Christ paid for David's sin, folks, now when that trumpet sounds, because he died in faith looking forward to Christ. See, those people in the Old Testament died looking forward to a Messiah coming, folks, and we're looking back to the fact that He's already came, and He's already accomplished what we could not accomplish. Well, now see, that's the who's who of faith all the way down. But look at the end. Look at that end verse there.
Where are you at?
Hebrew 11, and he gives all these that died in the faith, and Abraham and Isaac and all of these. But verse 39 in Hebrew 11 says this: "And these all, having obtained a good report through faith, received not the promise." In other words, hey, they didn't make it into the promised land yet. Jesus had not died. Now look at verse 40. "God, having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect or complete." He said, without Jesus, without the church, hey, we're building on that same covenant that they were building on. But folks, they couldn't have made it without Jesus either. So they're made complete when we're made complete. When that trumpet sounds, we all go together. And it's going to be a good reunion, folks. It's going to be a great family reunion. Now, John 14, while we're still in John, let's read that before we get anywhere. John 14, he said this: "Jesus said unto him," 14:6, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me." What's he saying? I'm the way to God, I'm the truth of God, and I'm the life of God. So you can't make it to God without me. And I'm gonna tell you something, folks. I don't care what else you do. If you don't believe that verse, you're not a Christian.
That's right.
You're not a Christian. All these folks say, "Oh, I believe in Jesus for myself," but all these others believe something else. They all right, they honestly believe it. No, they're not a Christian.
No.
Because they're calling Jesus a liar. Either He was the truth, folks, like He said, or all of our salvation is void. But because He is who He said He was, because He is the truth that He declared, folks, that's where our salvation is. And there is no other. There's no room left to follow what we believe. We must diligently seek out what Jesus believed and follow that. For that truth is settled, folks. That's settled. The way to God, Jesus. The truth of God, Jesus. The life of God, Jesus. No. And the whole book, if you'll get the Bible and start, you go over Genesis, the whole book is based around the truth of this man that we call Jesus, that was to come and die for our sins. From Genesis to Revelation, the whole book is based around Him because He's the key to it all. And folks, there's one verse right here: "I'm the way, the truth, and the life."
That's right.
Everything that we believe ought to be founded on that, measured by that. Did Jesus believe this? Would this be all right with Jesus? Because if it's not what He believed, we've missed it, folks. And it makes folks mad. I just reading this evening on Facebook where, this federal judge, throwed out Alabama's new abortion law. Did y'all see that? Yeah, of course, they knew it was going to happen. You know, Alabama passed a law, signing a law that, unless something was physically wrong with the baby or with the mother that had to have the abortion, they passed a law that said abortion was a crime. And those that did abortions could be charged with murder. Yeah. But the federal judge threw it out. And boy, it was just folks all kind of mad because people were saying, hey, it's murder. It was all kind of mad on the right responses to that. But do you know, and it said that on there, that the Supreme Court made a constitutional law that said that abortion was legal. How in the world can a court make a constitutional law? That's not in the Constitution either. The court's supposed to uphold the law, but unless that law is somewhere in the Constitution, the Supreme Court had no authority. Really, we just let it go, but folks, they had no authority to make a law that didn't come through Congress and signed by the president. But they did it, doing what the people want, and that's exactly right. That's what a lot of the religious folks are doing, what the people want. Time to rewrite it. Well, folks, you can just jot this down. They're trying to line this up so Pelosi will be president. If they impeach Trump, and they said to start with, Maxine Waters came right out and said to start with, first we're going to impeach Trump, then we'll impeach Pence. And so if you impeach without a crime, that's what they're saying. And Pelosi's the next in line. Ain't that a scary thought? Because everybody knows that Pelosi is one brick shy of a load. Oh yeah, Hillary. Oh, she'll probably appoint Hillary vice president.
They keep saying she may get back in.
Yeah, she keeps saying she may run again.
Yeah, she said that. They said she may.
Did y'all see where that did y'all see where that guy though, Epstein, that they found suicided in his jail cell and the guards was gone? Did y'all see where that doctor that had studied this, he went over case after case after case, and he said the injuries to Epstein was lent more toward homicide than suicide.
There you go. Because it broke the bone.
And I don't know who that shocked. Hey, he had the goods on the Prince over in England. He had the goods on the Clintons. And even the lawyer that brought this up died at 50 years old from mysterious circumstances. I'm like Mike, I don't know nothing about the Clintons. But I mean, I don't know how anybody in his right mind could have thought Epstein's death was a suicide when they had cameras on, and all of a sudden the cameras goes off for 3 hours, and the guards that's supposed to be checking every 30 minutes hadn't checked in 3 hours.
They come up missing too, didn't they? The guard.
No, they're still there, but they said they went to sleep. They That's probably what Clinton told him. If you sleep, you're doing good, but if you wake up, you'll be suicidal too. But David the psalmist said this in Psalms 117:2. For his merciful, talking about the Lord, for his merciful kindness is great toward us, and the truth of the Lord endureth forever. In other words, what the truth doesn't change, folks. And people, you try to witness to folks now, we're living in a new day now, but still the same God. And the truth hasn't changed, folks. See, the truth doesn't change to fit the society of today. The truth remains the same. What was truth 2,000 years ago is still truth today. Hey, homosexuality wasn't truth 2,000 years ago. Homosexuality ain't now. Change in gender wasn't true 2,000 years ago. Change in gender ain't the truth. That's the craziest thing I ever saw. I mean, we said for years that sin will make you stupid and it'll kill you. And sin, I never would have thought that sin would have made people that stupid. But it has. Change your gender. They're trying to pass the law in Alabama too that it's illegal to a minor to do sex change operations on a minor in Alabama. But folks that nutty just go somewhere else.
Yeah, they will.
But I mean, you know, you can't change your gender, folks. And we're in an epidemic of it too. We're in an epidemic of it, stupid. And I guarantee you, if stupid was a crime, then Washington D.C. would be a penal colony. You'd have to put a wall around it. I saw a thing last week. It said Trump said he was going to begin to deport Democrats. Said Mexico is now building a wall. Yeah, as soon as Mexico heard it, they started building a wall. What gets me though, you look at the districts where they're from, the districts that they were supposed to be represented, and they're all slum areas. California is turned into a trash dump. I mean, folks living on the street, just filth, needles. But Jesus said, "These words that I speak unto you, the same will judge you in the last days."
That's right.
So it doesn't make any difference what you believe. It's going to be this word that we're judged by. Jesus said, "I didn't come to judge the world, but the words that I speak will judge you in the last day." So, yeah, and it's the word. It's the word. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life. Well, what's the book of life, folks? So again, you can be as religious as you want to be. You can do all the good works you want to do. But it's this word that's going to judge you. And the sin in your life will destroy you. And the only way to get rid of it is Christ. But see, again, the devil has come along and talked man into trying to fit his image instead of Jesus's. Yeah. Hey, you know, you got to have fun. You got to do fun. It ain't fun to be doing stuff that's going to kill you. I mean, it might be fun for the minute, but hey, if you think about it, hey, it ain't worth it. I have fun living for Jesus myself. People that dies, drug addicts, they didn't start out saying, "I'm going to just take this drug till I die. It's going to kill me." They started out for the high. And again, folks are leaving the church because we have tried to as a whole, tried to fit the world instead of trying to be the answer for the world's problem. And so people leave the church because they don't see any answers there. But we got to get back to this word because this word will stand. As Mama used to say, that word will stand when the world's on fire. Well, you know, David, we just read it, said it'd be forever. But when we look, if you wonder what is truth, when you look and see what Jesus believed, folks, you can, as they say, you can hang your hat on that. Because if you walk in what he believed, because God looks at you through what he's done anyway. God looks at you through his word. And people come up with this, "Oh, God loves everybody." Yes, he does. He loved the world. But he doesn't love sin, and he's not going to back up just because we decided to live in sin. He's not going to back the word up and say, "Well, you know, I got to do something to fit them in." No, he's done all he's going to do to fit you in with Calvary. What else could he do more than that? This was a love beyond understanding. But Jesus believed that God was absolutely good. And after all this time, a lot of folks still don't know that. But in John 5:49, Jesus said that he did whatsoever things that he saw the Father do. And we look at that, we never see him making folks sick. We never see him killing anybody. We never see him rejecting anybody that comes to him. He said, "Whatsoever things I have seen him do." That means in the entirety. If Jesus ever saw God do it, he said, "That's what I do." And so you can look and see what Jesus done, and then you can realize, hey, the Father is absolutely good. John 5:49. Okay, well maybe wait a minute. I'll tell you what it is. Your computer ain't slow as me, but I'll get there in a minute. Well, just hang on. I'll tell you. You know what I done? It's 19. You know what I did? I was marking that in my Bible, and I somehow or another got a little ink thing right there, and I made that 19 into a 4. And then I wrote it down in the notes. It's not.
19?
No, verse 5 and 19. But like I said, I was making marks in my Bible right there, and somehow or another I've turned that one in the 19 into a 4, and I put that on my notes. It's a 49. I told y'all you better stay with me, keep me on my toes here. It's 19. It's bad to be getting old, but it's better than any of the alternative, ain't it? And that, turn over to Luke 6 and 35 and see if this is what I'm looking for. See what that says. Love your enemies and do good and lend, hoping for nothing again, and your reward shall be great, and you shall be the children of the highest, for he is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father is also merciful. He said he's kind, even to the unthankful and to the evil. And if you think killing folks is kind, folks, don't be kind to me. But Jesus said the Father was unkind even to those that didn't like him. And so that makes him good, folks. And the righteousness that he has given us through his Son, he expects us to walk in it. Let's turn over to 1 Peter right quick. We're going to read this before we quit. I'll tell you when I get there. Chapter 1. He's talking about how we should live in the salvation that he's given us. He said, wherefore gird up the loins of your mind. Be sober and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Jesus Christ as obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the former lust in your ignorance. But as he which has called you is holy, be ye holy in all manner of conversation. That word means behavior. He said, because Jesus is holy that's called you, we're supposed to be walking holy in our behavior. Because it is written, be ye holy, for I am holy. Have you ever heard that preached? You don't hear, be ye holy. Like I said, I had a guy get plumb mad at me in Jack's here a couple of years ago because I told him that we weren't supposed to be sinning every day. I mean, he got as red-faced as I am. I know we are. I sin every day. I said, well, you ought to quit that. But see, that was not what Jesus taught. Jesus taught, walk after him. Take up your cross and follow me. Where did he go in sin? Yeah, I saw. I was in church when a fellow said that one time. And I was in the store one time when his minister was witnessing to a lady in the store, and I was working, so I didn't get to stop. I had to go. I was on the clock, but he told this lady. He said, "You see that bank across the street?" She said, "Yeah." He said, "If I walked over, if I needed money, I'd walk over and rob that bank. If I got killed on the way out, I'd go straight to heaven. You know why? Because I'm saved." Well, no, if you're saved, if you're born again, the Spirit in you ain't gonna let you walk across the street and rob the bank. And I heard a fellow one time. I was visiting a little church, and the guy that was teaching Bible study, and he said, I was over in Birmingham drinking in a bar, and he said, I got in a fight, and he said, a fella cut my shirt all to pieces. And so he said, all I had was just little scratches on my body. He said, that was God taking care of a saved man. And I almost said before I realized where I was at, I almost told him, no, that was God being merciful to a sinner. But let me tell you something, folks. If there is no change in our lives, if we don't desire a change, there's no Jesus in there. Jesus will make a difference. If Jesus hadn't made a difference, it's because we hadn't allowed him into our life. Do we make wrong decisions? I do. That's the reason I have to pray all the time to make godly decisions, that God will show me what he'd have me do. And you know what you do? Get in there and see what Jesus, I mean, you know, that's no cliche. What would Jesus do? But get in there and see what Jesus believed. Get in there and see what he taught. Go that way. You'll never be wrong. But that's what we need to get back to, is telling folks what Jesus believed. I believe it this way. Well, how did Jesus believe it? It doesn't make any difference. Nobody ever gets so high up in this thing that they can start twisting Scripture and make, you know, and God being all right with it. Now, this is the truth, just like it is, folks. Just like it is. Well, you repent of that and then walk on, forgiven because
I'm sorry for that. I messed up.
you don't stay in it. Believe what Jesus taught.
Yeah.
Well, again, unless we have committed ourselves to God, then the old man's still alive. And if the old man's still alive, it's because the new man ain't in there.
Right.
Because the old man and the new man does not shack up together.
That's it.
They just don't.
No, you don't.
And Jesus said, all things became new. When we met him, all things becomes new.
That's right.
We're a new creature in Christ. We become the righteousness of God in him. In him. So if we're not in him, guess where we're at?
That's it.
We're still in the world, folks.
Make the world self.
And again, when God begins to bless people, so many people get to feeling like, oh, he's blessing me because I'm good. No, he blesses us because he's good. But churches have failed because some minister, God began to bless the ministry and it began to grow, and all of a sudden it's all about him. And the church will fall, folks. And I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. Where it would be it'd get to be all about